Fold 7 describes itself as a 21st century agency for a 21st century consumer. It's been responsible for some spectacular special builds and knows how to work at a grand scale. Here we talk to Executive Creative Director Ryan Newey. You do a lot of special builds, Ryan. Can you tell us about some of these and how you go from concept to finished output?
We do a wide variety of different projects for different clients, and so I think every project starts with a process of working out what's best for this particular problem and finding the right solution. So the special build isn't where we start, but it has to be the solution to the problem first and foremost. So in the case of 8-Bit Lane, which was where we took over a whole street, the journey that went on was actually Disney were launching a new film called Wreck-It Ralph, and this particular film referenced something called 8-bit, which is like the old pixelated graphics that you would have from Donkey Kong and Space Invaders and what have you. So there was a real retro appeal with that film, and so they gave us the brief of how can we launch this to a new audience, how can we get adults interested in this film moreover than the usual kids base type people that are watching it. So we took a view that actually Shoreditch would be a great place to do some kind of takeover. It would be a great place because it's got the highest concentrated area of active social media people in the UK. So we thought, well, actually, if we can do a stunt, something there that's of notable worth, then we can have them give reason for conversation, online chat, discussion, sharing, Instagram, etc., all of that. So really that was the strategy for how we can get conversation going around that film, how we can share one of the attributes of that film, which was this 8-bit feature. So we then started to look for the right environment, and we found a great little location in Shoreditch, and then began the process of what can we do to transform this environment. And in that particular instance, you can see some of the imagery, but we created the world's first blippable building, which is a game within one of the buildings there that you can play, and then really dressing the whole street from usual sort of standard 2D graphics wrapping over buildings to creating 3D installations. We worked with a specific commercial sculptor, I believe he called himself, to help deliver some of the different facts like 8-bit pigeons and 8-bit cars and all sorts of different things. So this became something that people would stumble across and find and explore. We didn't promote it ourselves and say go and visit 8-Bit Lane. We created it, left it there for people to discover and to feel that they had found something interesting, for them to do the hard work and share it and talk about it. And it had something like 1 million retweets within its first couple of hours, so very successful. And that was the journey, yeah.
So social media was integrated with the campaign?
Yeah, I think when people talk about social media, it's quite often a view that social media lives within social media, but actually I think the strongest social medias are when there's a real world catalyst that drives the social content. And so putting something, whether that be a stunt, a creation, an installation, a one-day event, or whatever it is, but very much getting it into the real world is usually the stronger catalyst we find.
Did 8-Bit Lane finish looking much as you visualised it?
It was a organic project in terms of we had great ambition to do all sorts of things. Like every agency, you start with a list this long, and wouldn't it be amazing if we could do X, Y, and Z? When you get into the commercial cost of doing something like 8-Bit Lane, then you actually have to start to pare down what's feasible within the time frame, what's feasible within the budget. So then we'd look at the which aspects within our ideas are going to deliver the most bang for the buck, what's going to have the highest impact for least cost, and what's going to deliver the most kind of varied experience. So those are the criteria we start to review the different aspects to, and then try and give people who are interacting with it different things, so big things, small things, organic objects, bigger objects, something digital to interact with as well as physical, things that are of a certain size that you can pose with, things that you can get pictures from certain angles that will get a number of items in there. So these are all the things we consider, and can we get all of that done for very little money? And then if the answer is yes, we're in business.
And did people interact with it in the way you thought they would?
It was pretty much as we'd hoped, not necessarily as we thought. We knew that people would enjoy the physicality of it and walking down the street and experiencing the sort of installation. But it was great to see the sharing, the taking photographs and the amount of retweets and discussion that there was in such a short amount of time.
And how did large format help you realise the creative vision with 8-bit Lane?
Yeah, I mean, just from our point of view, it's a case of we are only limited by our imagination. That sounds cheesy, but it's true. If we don't try to get too bogged down into the formats of printing and so forth, but actually as long as we can imagine it and someone else can deliver it, that's how it best works for us.
You also did a special build for Go Compare. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, again, the Go Compare campaign, it's all set in a fictional place called Land of Saving Money and Getting the Right Deal, Go, Go, Go Compare. And obviously it's based on the very long Welsh town, because they're a Welsh company, and it's where all of the Go Comparians live and what have you. So the long name in itself immediately lent itself to some special builds where we would make use of that long name and have the sign overhanging the billboard just to emphasise the last part of the word, which is Go Compare. So it seemed like a good idea to launch the campaign with some special build outdoors there. With that comes a bit of a challenge, obviously, because not all media owners want to let you run over your allotted space within the outdoor space. So fortunately we were able to buy enough sites that would allow us to play with that a little bit and run our bit on the end, or even over other people's ads sometimes. Outdoor on the whole forms part of our media mix, and outdoor is there to create impact, and where TV does frequency and you get a repeated message and so forth, outdoor does stature. That's what it delivers in spades. So that's where we look for it there. So if we can deliver stature for our clients, then we head to outdoor for that.
What are the typical creative and technical challenges you find with special builds?
There possibly are more challenges than I'm aware of, because I'm fortunate enough not to have to deal with the detail of those challenges. So I would be lying if I said I knew them all. But I think the challenge is working with the media owners to ensure that they're up for doing something a little bit different. As I said, we kind of just work on the concepts, and then it's down to the media agency and the media owners to accept and work with us to try and deliver things that are a little bit outside the norm. But I think more media owners are up for that these days. I think they recognise that their business is a more exciting business by doing things that step outside of the usual 48 sheet or not standard out of home formats.
And in terms of the sort of realising your creative vision, and does the medium light large format output, is that, do you have a direct relationship with the printer? Do you bring the printer into the creative process early-ish to find out exactly what you can do, what you can and can't do?
Yeah, we do. We obviously have a production department, and they will meet with all the stakeholders who are involved in a campaign, and usually the people who are responsible for making it happen or what have you are part of that meeting. So as long as it's all discussed, and we prepare guidelines on how we would like it to be implemented, and as long as everybody's happy with that, then we're good to go. But there's nothing that can't be resolved with a good sit down and a cup of tea.
Do you leave it for printers and your suppliers to come to you with new developments, new technologies, new substrates and things, or are you proactive in finding out what new technologies, what new developments might be available to you?
It's a bit of a mix of both. We do get approached with new things, new locations, new super big formats that are being created, and so we do keep abreast of those to some degree, but usually that's a conversation with our media buyers, and they discuss what potential new opportunities there are. In terms of latest materials and things like that, it's always interesting to learn about them, but it isn't where we start. We start with just the idea of the campaign and what that's got to deliver, and all of the detail in terms of those final finishes and things like that are icing on the cake for us, but not the driving factor.
And does the technology, whether it's print output or whatever, does it live up to, in general, do you manage to, what you want, do you get it these days?
Yeah, we do. In short, that would be the answer. But I seem obviously stating the obvious, but more and more outdoor is going digital, which means it's much more targeted. You can target consumers at a certain type of day. You can make it related to the weather, so the messaging can change. And this is obviously I would say, the direction that most outdoor will be heading.
Who else you typically collaborate with on special builds, and what are the keys to success?
We tend to involve, it depends on the scale of the special build. If it's a special build where it's just something which is extending out a frame of a normal 48 sheet posters, that's quite a low level of evolution from a standard 48 sheet. If you're going for something much more advanced, and you see them these days with a car on there and flames going down the road, then obviously it's an altogether different kettle of fish. So we try to involve commercial sculptors, special effects people, and whoever we really need. Our production department pull together a number of different experts in that field, depending on the project that it is. But at the very least, we work with commercial sculptors to help put a vision together. And they obviously collaborate with the media owner to make sure that can be done legally and feasibly and on budget and all that business, yeah.
And is communication the key to success in a collaboration like that?
Yeah, communication is always key, because it's all very good at looking good on paper from the off and saying that's what it's going to look like, but there's a great journey between something looking good in our office and it looking good by the time it's up there. So to avoid any disappointment for our clients, then yes, obviously communication and staying on top of that process throughout is vital.
How do you view the future of print, and do you see it being further integrated with social media and other digital platforms?
I think every format has its role, and so whilst print used to be a default role where everything would just end up on print regardless, I think now print has to survive on the attributes that print does best. It's a real world experience. Certainly the printed matter is something which delivers a different experience. So consumers enjoy a rich variety of experiences, and print just is another one of those experiences. So knowing what it does well and doing more of what it does well, which is to be a real world tactile experience. It can deliver a human touch in a way that other things can't.